Welcome to the Big Picture Retirement Show, where you'll learn what it really takes to have a successful retirement. With over 20 years of experience, your host, Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, has seen it all and is here to help you achieve your retirement dreams. This is the Big Picture Retirement Show.
Welcome into the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera. I'm Mark Elliott. Glad you're with us. Rick is a partner at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. Rick has over 20 years' experience in the financial industry. He's been helping folks just like you, trying to figure out where they were in that retirement world. Can I retire? Do I have enough? Will my money last? Are we going to be okay? Safeguard is all about helping you in the investment world, the income. You got to replace your paychecks when you retire, so where's your income going to come from? Taxes, health care, long-term care, legacy planning. What about Social Security and Medicare decisions? Team at Safeguard is really holistic retirement planning, all of that under one roof, here to help you. 800-700-1980. I think it's a great opportunity for you to get some clarity into your retirement picture. 800-700-1980. 800-700-1980. Totally complimentary. Hey, Rick, how are you?
Doing really good, Mark. What about yourself?
Doing great. And there's a study. There's always studies, right, Rick? There's studies about everything in the financial world. Well, Bloomberg recently reported that it conducted 1 million simulations on the U.S. debt outlook. 88% of those show that our current borrowing is on an unsustainable path. I'm surprised that it didn't go 100%, but it said 88% of those million simulations on an unsustainable path for our debt. Can't be surprised by that at all, can you?
No, not at all. I mean, it's one of those things that, it's pretty clear. I mean, most people can't even wrap their heads around $1 trillion and what that means, that number. They can't even comprehend $1 trillion. So 34 trillion, I mean, that's astronomical. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think if you count to like 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, to actually get to 1 trillion, it's going to take you over 30,000 years.
Yeah, it's some crazy number like that. Yeah, exactly.
Number.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a crazy number. So that's kind of where we are, because right now our national debt getting a little bit closer all the time to 35 trillion. And what the economic forecasters are saying that they expect in the next decade our country debt will be $54 trillion. So
wow.
When people come in, that's so big a number we can't even relate to it. We can't control that, I suppose. How do your clients, are they concerned about our debt? What's the general feeling?
Absolutely. We get people that come in and they'll say, hey, Rick, what's the deal with this debt? How's it going to affect our investments? How's this going to affect our retirement? The list goes on and on as far as, what their concerns are. And especially since we're, kind of hitting, I guess, for lack of better terminology, uncharted territory with this type of debt, that we have going on. And honestly, Congress is really doing, not too much about it, because in order to address it, they're going to have to obviously reduce spending. And we know how good they are about that. And then, of course, they're going to have to raise revenue taxes in order to truly address it. So the fact that it's not being addressed, and these two parties can't get along and come to agreement on anything, it's making a lot of retirees nervous, because they're like, hey, how's this going to affect me? So yeah, it's becoming more and more of a concern as time goes on, for sure.
Yeah, and it's certainly something that when you're getting ready to retire, you're thinking, okay, well, boy, I think my taxes will probably be going up and up. I wonder how that will affect my retirement. If you have concerns like that, sit down with Rick and the team at Safeguard. 800-700-1980. There is no cost to you, but it's an opportunity maybe to ease your tension level, because at the end of the day, Washington and Wall Street can't really control your retirement. You control your retirement. And when you work with a retirement planning team like Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, now you're taking a little bit more control. Washington and Wall Street will have a play in what happens, right? We know we have to think of, okay, well, the IRS can change tax codes, or the Congress can change the tax codes at any point, right? They can always move numbers around, but really it's about you. Can Rick and the team at Safeguard really help you, give you some clarity, help you make the right decision for your situation? Find out, 800-700-1980, because you think of that, all the debt we're in, and there's no sign that it's slowing down at any point when they're saying we're going to be almost $20 trillion more in debt than we are right now in the next decade. but there's no way they can tax us all to eliminate that debt. But that's kind of what we always think of. Well, they got to have to raise taxes, right?
Well, yeah, and the other thing is, oh, we're going to tax the rich. Well, if you think about it, if they taxed the rich in this country, what they call the rich, 100%, again, following statistics, I saw a statistic that said that if they took 100% of all their assets, homes, cars, everything, it would not pay off $1 trillion, let alone $34 trillion. So it's a scenario here where, when it comes to retirees, let's just make this real simple. If you're concerned about inflation, you're concerned about the debt, you're concerned about taxes and what might happen in the future, you need to have a game plan right now where we plan for the worst case scenario. And if it occurs, you're fine. And what I mean by that is this: if they're really going to attack this thing and they're going to they may raise taxes marginally. We know in 2026, marginal rates are automatically going up. But here's what I'm really concerned about is what about kind of like, them passing, I'll call it like a backdoor method to taxes. And what I mean by that, in order to increase taxes for retirees specifically, what if all of a sudden they decide, hey, you know what? Here's a way where we can probably sneak something under the rug where, people are required to pull X amount out of their IRAs and 401ks and all that once they attain age 73. Maybe what we do is we increase the amount that they have to pull out. That's a sneaky way in order to get more taxes. Or, right now, Social Security's taxed at the 85% level. Oh, maybe instead, we up that from 85% to 100% of their Social Security that's going to be subject to tax. And then what we do is we reduce the thresholds that Social Security is. So there's all these different areas that they can come in and start, sneaking in and to get more and more out of you. And, there are strategies that we use for clients, whether it be Roth conversions and a variety of other things where we can sit down with them and start game planning so that if these things start occurring and they start increasing the taxes on your Social Security, start forcing you to take larger RMDs out of your retirement accounts in order to tax you more, which also causes your Social Security to be taxed more, then, we can set up a plan so that way if those things occur, you're like, oh, I already planned for it. I don't need to worry because I position myself so it's not an issue for me. So anything like that, definitely give us a call if this is a concern. So that way, you're not caught by surprises. And that's what we try to do is put clients in a position where regardless of what happens in the economy, they're not going to be caught by, surprise.
So again, to chat with Rick and the team at Safeguard Investment Advisor Group, it's 800-700-1980. Again, totally complimentary. There's no pressure to you. There's no obligation whatsoever. Rick and the team are here to help if they can. And then if you want their help, there you go. 800-700-1980. Rick, while you were answering that, I looked up the 10 richest people in America. Well, I've got the top 6. And it was Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, $210.6 billion. Jeff Bezos, Amazon, $181 billion. Larry Ellison of Oracle, $142 million. Zuckerberg, Facebook, $141 billion. Buffett, $128 billion, basically Berkshire Hathaway. Larry Page of Google, $126.5 billion. And I added all those together. So the top 6 richest people in the country, $929 billion. We don't even get to $1 trillion with the top 6 richest Americans. That's kind of puts the debt into maybe context a little bit. Now, There's another thing going on that Los Angeles is certainly a part of, and it's this mansion tax. Have you had much conversation about a mansion tax? It's not about the size or square footage of your place. It's about the property's selling price. Have you had any? Because it's a ballot initiative in Los Angeles, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Chicago. Voters recently rejected that. Have you had much conversation about that?
Not really. Most of our clients, are in Orange County, Riverside, San Diego, and, up in Sacramento, Santa Barbara, Oxnard. Not too much in Los Angeles County. So it hasn't really been coming up. Obviously, it's a concern because, once they pass something in one county, then everybody else is like, oh, what do you know? This is a good idea. Why don't we try? And then it can pass to other counties. But not too much, as far as our clients, I really haven't heard too much about it, not really talking about it. But obviously something, that we don't want to ignore, at least keep an eye on it. And if that occurs, then maybe we should start thinking about, okay, how are we going to reposition ourselves, for that.
And I think that's one of the greatest things you do for your clients, whether it's Social Security changes, Medicare changes, tax changes, all the things that happen in Washington and Wall Street. You guys at Safeguard are on top of it and can help explain, that doesn't affect you at all when you're talking to your clients. Yeah, this one could affect you. We better strategize for that one. That's, I think, a great service where we don't maybe understand all the things that are going on. Your team at Safeguard understands, can kind of help guide us through some of this craziness.
Absolutely. And that's where, we can be much more strategic, because what happens is when we take somebody on as a client, or I take somebody on as a client, I know them personally and we have a relationship with them. So as new things occur, we're just not bombarding clients with just random ideas or random things that they could care less about. I'll know based upon, whether it's a new tax law or something has to do with investments or what's going on. I'll know, okay, you know what, these particular clients, this is a topic that I know would be very important to them. So I should share these ideas with this group. This other group, they could care less about that. So, we can be very specific. And again, because of our relationship with our clients and we know them as individuals, we can now be very precise in our recommendations. So if anybody has concerns about their specific scenario, they can give us a call. And within 45 minutes, I'll give you an hour consultation where we can give you at least 2 ideas that will enhance whatever it is that you're doing. And I can guarantee that it'll cost you nothing to do. If you come in, give me 45 minutes of your time, I'll be able to give you 2 ideas that will enhance whatever it is that you're doing, and it'll cost you nothing at all for that. I've been doing this long enough that I know I can do that.
800-700-1980. Think about that. 2 ideas that will enhance whatever it is you are currently doing, no cost to you, and also gives you a better understanding of where you are on that road to retirement. Maybe you're already retired even, you've got some questions. But really, we kind of think of the pre-retirees that have never retired before, a lot of questions in their mind. Having the 2 ideas that will enhance whatever it is you're currently doing is phenomenal. Rick guarantees that will happen. 800-700-1980. Back with more of the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group right after this.
You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera. For more information about Rick and the Safeguard Investment Advisory Group team, go to safeguardinvestment.com. While you're there, you can also download educational retirement guides and sign up for an upcoming seminar. That's safeguardinvestment.com. Now, back to the podcast.
Welcome back to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. Rick is a partner along with Reed Aberdeen and Eddie Soda of the team at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. You can always go to the website. They have a lot of offices in California. Rick basically is out of the Corona office most of the time. Safeguardinvestment.com, safeguardinvestment.com to learn more. Find out about upcoming events. There's certainly a lot of great information on the website. You can always call with questions, and we're going to have a little mailbag segment here. And these are questions that people have sent in, said at a seminar or something like that. And we just kind of hold on to these questions and we just go through them sometimes because the questions are interesting and we figure others might have these same questions. But one thing that we do know is, for example, our first question is George in Temecula. We don't know all the particulars. We don't know how old you are or your wife is. We don't know a lot of things, but the questions are always fun. So my theory is you should always call the team. You got questions like this, call and find out. Get the answers. There's no cost. 800-700-1980. All right, Rick, here you go. First question, George in Temecula. Rick, I've had a steady corporate job for 35 years, and my wife has taught piano lessons since we were married in the early 80s. Her job has helped us pay for groceries, gave us some extra money to put away for the future, but she doesn't have a job with a 401k or insurance benefits. How can I make sure she will be okay if something happens to me?
Excellent question. Well, I guess, first of all, this is how we would structure this. Number one is I would first define what is your definition of making sure your wife is okay? What does that mean to the both of you? Once we define what that means, then we game plan that out. So for example, maybe that means that, in some cases, let's say if something happens to you, maybe Social Security, we know we're going to lose one of the Social Security checks. Maybe what your pension may be cut or there's a shortfall there. We figure out where are the shortfalls. Then what we do is we figure out, okay, how can we fill in these gaps? And is there anything that maybe you're not currently taking advantage of that you should be taking advantage of? So, for example, sometimes, I've had clients come in and let's say the husband's getting $3,000 a month Social Security, and the wife, maybe she didn't work very much, and her Social Security is $800 a month, and she claimed hers. And sometimes they didn't even realize that, hey, wait a minute. And I have to explain to them that she could go on spousal benefit because she has that option. And instead of getting $800 a month, she can increase that to $1,500 a month. So there's a variety of things. I know that's just one simple example, but there's a variety of things that we can do to kind of set the stage, depending upon what does that mean. I want to make sure my wife is okay. And then we set the stage as to how can we maximize Social Security? How do we address the pensions? What can we do to make sure that the pensions are set up properly for her? The other thing too is making sure that the investments are structured, and then taxes, everything's in line. The other thing that we want to do is maybe even run a mock tax return, because there are scenarios, and I even talk about this in our workshop, where we can have husband and wife receiving an income. Now, one spouse passes away. We know we're going to lose a Social Security check. Income goes down. But to make matters worse, taxes actually go up for the surviving spouse. And the reason for that is because Social Security is taxed at a lower threshold than it is for married couples. When I lose my spouse, I lose a standard deduction. Marginal rates are larger because if you think about it, if I have a married couple making $50,000, a single person making $50,000, even though they're making the same amount of money, the single person's already in a higher marginal tax bracket. So my point is, we can even say, hey, listen, if God forbid something happens to you, we can even say, okay, here's how we can make up these shortfalls. We can even run a mock tax return showing you, hey, here's what taxes are going to look like for your wife. That way we can make sure that there is no surprises and that we're covering all the bases. The other thing that we can do as well is, because we specialize in retirement planning, we can share ideas and strategies that we've seen other clients of ours go through that are in the same situation that you're in. We can share ideas and strategies that maybe you didn't even think about asking or looking at. So again, if something happens, you're not caught by surprise. You're made aware of all the possibilities, and you can plan accordingly. So it's really something that, if that is truly a concern of yours, I would suggest make an appointment, come in, and would be happy to give you some tidbits on what you can do to really enhance, to make sure your wife is truly okay based upon what your definition is of that.
Yeah, so George, just call the team, 800-700-1980. There's a lot of things that Rick went over, and he doesn't know the answers because you have them, right? You give him the answers, he can give you some answers. You have the questions, Rick has some answers for you, 800-700-1980. Next question comes from Cindy. Cindy comes from the Redlands. Rick, my husband and I just started getting serious about preparing for retirement, so we started going through all of our monthly expenses. And it was really eye-opening. I had no idea where it was all going each month. So we've started preparing for retirement. What do you think we should do now?
Another good question. Here's the thing, and I want people to realize this. When it comes to retirement, what I've seen over and over and over again over the years, it's going to boil down income versus expenses. That's what it truly boils down to. Because the challenge that I see is that so many people are Googling information on the internet, or they're, getting general information. And let's say, for example, you Google that, hey, you need to save $1 million by the time you retire. Let's just say that, for example. Then I have somebody come into my office and they're like, Rick, you know what? I only saved, 250,000 or X amount of my 401k, and I'm so stressed. And all my colleagues in my department, they got $1 million. The other one's got 1.2, and they're feeling like they're behind, and they're having a lot of anxiety. And then I look at the pensions and I look at Social Security, and let's say that's $10,000 a month, and their bills are $3,000 a month. I'm like, listen, you don't need to stress. You're going to be okay. The fact that you didn't save $1 million, this other money here, you can let that continue to grow, and we can game plan things out to enhance whatever it is that they're doing. Now, on the other hand, the opposite side of that equation is somebody will come in and say they're patting themselves on the back. They're like, Rick, you know what? I saved $1 million just like it, what I read. And I look at their expenses and I find out they need 10 grand a month to live on. And I'm like, listen, this million ain't going to last you. I don't know why you're patting yourself on the back. We need a game plan. So ultimately, I'm glad you're looking at the expenses, because if you can, have no debt and make sure that the expenses are in line with the income that you're going to need in retirement, that is everything. And so again, if you need help with that, give us a call, because we even have, or we can even email you if you want. Just give the show a call. We can even email you one of our expense worksheets that you can use as a tool to kind of figure out what you think your expenses might be in retirement. And it's a real helpful tool.
Yeah, so safeguardinvestment.com, info at safeguardinvestment.com to do that. 800-700-1980 again is the number. Great questions. We're running out of time. Rick, we got about 40 seconds left. So I'll let you kind of remind people the opportunity that they have just by calling 800-700-1980 and giving you 45 minutes to chat with them.
You know what you can do, folks, and then there's several ways you can set up. You can either give us a call. We're happy to meet with you one-on-one, give you 45 minutes. You leave your checkbooks and all that behind. The other thing too is if you prefer to do even a phone consultation or a Zoom meeting, we have that available. Again, leave checkbooks and all that behind. There's no cost or obligation, just to get an introduction to us. And then during that meeting, like I've said countless times, if you give me, 45 minutes to an hour, I can almost guarantee you that I'll give you at least 2 ideas that will enhance whatever it is that you're doing, and it'll cost you nothing to do. Or at least, if you want to check out one of our workshops, we have plenty of workshops in the areas where you can come in, get a nice dinner, no cost, and see what we're about that way also. So there's multiple ways in which you can come in and just kind of get an introduction and get a feel for what it is that we do.
So the event, safeguardinvestment.com, is a website. Just look under the event tab, safeguardinvestment.com. And again, you can always call 800-700-1980, totally complimentary, 800-700-1980. Rick, enjoyed it as always. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. We'll be back with more next weekend of the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Mark.
Firm offers insurance services. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC, is a registered investment advisory firm. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC, is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC.